perceive you, right? I'll concede to that, is in virtue of its transcendental necessity for you to have relationality in the first place, for you to have intelligibility. Now, you probably even agree to that. You just don't agree to what are the properties of this ultimate, right? And I can defend that in virtue of your worldview being incoherent, and I can demonstrate that very easily.
Yeah, so in all honesty, Rodi, it sounds like what you're saying is that, I mean, this, to me, it sounds like a desperate attempt to evade the Christian worldview. It sounds like you've conjured up this worldview in a desperate attempt to give some type of excuse for why it is that you reject the Christian worldview. And so what I've been trying to ask you and figure out from you during this whole conversation is, if you are referring to this impersonal ultimate, okay?
Yeah.
If you're referring to this impersonal ultimate and you're saying that it is what dictates all states of possibility, but it is not intended to reveal itself to you, then how is it that these causal tendencies have revealed it to you? If it is what determines all possibility, how is it that it did not intend to reveal it to you, but you have still determined that it is revealing itself to you? It seems like a contradiction.
I already gave you the justifications, explanations, and the procedural way by which it does that, but it seems like you're not really listening. It's either the case that all of those questions are very rhetorical, or you're just not listening to me. So it is.
I mean, you can say that,
either
Rodi,
one or the.
but
I gave you also the
you've
justifications
already,
for that, right?
yeah, but you've
So
already said
would you like me
that.
to answer it again?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
So you've already said that this ultimate, that is, it's impersonal, and that it has not intended to reveal itself to you, but it is the ultimate that dictates all possibility, okay? And yet it has not intended to reveal itself to you, but you are now saying that it did reveal itself to you unintentionally through causal tendencies. But if it is if this
That's
ultimate is what dictates all possibility, including causal tendencies, okay, then how is it that it did not intend to reveal itself to you?
Because it's not an intentional. It's causal disposition. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking me. If you don't want to answer to your previous question, you're not want me to answer you to this question, because those two questions are very much alike. But again, if you let's just put all of those disagreements aside. Let's just concede to whatever we agree upon, right? We agree, both of us, right? We agree that there is ultimate. We agree that it is the source of possibilities and impossibilities. And we agree that there is a relationality between particulars and this ultimate, right? Do we agree on that? Just before I'm continuing, because it seems like your questions are not leading us to anywhere.
Well, I mean, I think I made a pretty good point about your ultimate that you're invoking is not intentional in revealing itself to you, but it is the ultimate by which all possibility derives and depends. And so if it hasn't intended to reveal itself to you, then it wouldn't have revealed itself to you.
Why? Wait. If a glass breaks when it falls down and it didn't intend to break, does that mean that he wouldn't break?
Yeah, I believe that the only reason why you could perceive a glass falling down and breaking is in light of the fact that God, who is the ultimate, has intended for you to make that inference.
Perception. Yeah, but I'm not talking about the perception or the inference. I'm talking about the ontological state in which the glass break. Do you think the glass broke because it intended to break when it fell down? Obviously not.
I never said that.
Yeah, I know that you never said that.
But the only reason why you perceive a glass breaking, the only reason why you would ever perceive...
No.
It is relevant. It's very relevant.
Let me just finish.
If you're going to use an example of the things that you perceive happening, then you're going to have
perception. But it's not about the
Well, how
perception.
would you know
Just
that,
let me,
how would
let me
you know
finish.
anything that could happen
JT,
unless you perceived it? Are you omniscient?
JT, no, JT, let me finish and you'll understand the point that I'm trying to make. You didn't let me finish. So the point here is that obviously there are objects that behave in a particular way, right? And their behavior is not intentional, right? And I gave you one example that defeats the universal claim that if one have a specific state, it's in virtue of intentionality. And that's not true. And I gave you a counterexample to that, right? So in this case, I am having the state of knowledge, right? And I have the state of knowledge in virtue of the causal disposition of the universal structure. And that doesn't have to be, right? Even by your light, doesn't have to be intentional, right? Because there is no universality in regards to something changing its state to
I actually
that
reject that.
of intentional. Okay, so you're
I believe
rejecting that
that
the glass broke because of intentionality?
I'm saying that the glass can only break because of intentionality.
Okay, so if a wind makes the glass to fall from the table and then it breaks, do you think the wind intended for the glass to break?
No, but the ontological ultimate that dictates all possibility has intended that the glass break in virtue, in virtue of secondary causes like wind, wind affecting the structure of the glass and pushing it off of a table, for example.
So, yeah, but in this case, it will be transitive, not direct, right? So in this case, it's not that
Okay,
God.
indirect, yeah, sure.
If it is indirect, that's fine, right?
And the
I
only
have no
reason why we
problem with
could
saying there is
perceive
an
such an
intention.
instance, the only reason why we could perceive such an instance as a human being is in virtue
Yeah.
of the intentionality of the ultimate making us to perceive.
Yeah, and what is the argument for that?
Well, I mean, you're saying that this ultimate, okay, that has not intended for you to perceive him has failed, and that you have
What?
perceived him or it or
I'm
whatever it is that you're describing as this impersonal ultimate.
okay.
Okay,
And
and so you're saying
is
that
there a problem?
you're saying that the ontological ultimate that dictates all possibility, including what you can perceive and what you can and what you can be made known of, be what can reveal things to you, has not
Yeah,
intended, okay, has not intentionally intended for you to perceive it, okay, as the
that's
ultimate.
correct. Yeah, and
Okay.
what the
And
problem with
so
that is?
and so the problem with that is that if the ultimate that dictates all possibility has not intended you, a contingent being that is derivative of this ultimate, if it has dictated that you do not perceive it, then that would be the case and you wouldn't be able to perceive it.
Wait, how does that follow? I think you already know that that doesn't follow, but I just want to entertain what you
You
said
can
right
say
now.
that it doesn't follow, but you can say that,
Yeah,
until you're blue
there
in the
is no
face. But
inference. No, it
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, because
There is no inference.
no, there
Or
is
just
an
tell me what is
inference.
the inference.
The
Yeah. So what
inference
is the inference?
the inference is that the ultimate that you are invoking is what dictates all possibility, including what your perceptions are and what your what you perceive and what you know to be the case. Okay, it's the ultimate is what dictates that. Okay, and
I know.
it has not intended for you to be perceptive of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
And
and
how
so
is that an
how
inference?
and so if you're saying that you do perceive the ultimate through causal tendencies, then you're saying that it has intended you
No,
to
that doesn't follow.
perceive it.
No, that doesn't follow. How
Yes, it,
how the causal tendency? Yeah.
because
How
it
does
is
the causal
because
tendency
this ultimate is what
implies intention?
dictates this ultimate that you're invoking is what dictates
Uh-huh.
what
By
you can and
dictates, you mean
cannot.
intentionally?
Well, I mean, would it how would it not, it is what dictates all possibility. Okay?
Yeah, so it dictates all the possibility. I
Yeah.
grant you that. Is
Yeah.
that when you're saying dictates, do you mean intentional or not? Because that it probably hinges on your usage of the word dictates. Because
Are
if
you
it is not
saying
intentional, yeah, it is dictating. If it is if it has if dictation means intentional, then it is not then it is not dictates. It's just causally disposing for all of those things to be the way that they are. So I answered both of the questions that you didn't ask, but you should have asked.
Yeah. So when you say that the ultimate, when you say that the ultimate is what all contingent properties derive and depend upon, okay, and that you are perceiving that all things, or that you have you have certain knowledge that all things have, or all things are deriving from this ultimate.
Yeah, I have the knowledge. It's
Yeah,
causally disposed.
you're
Yeah, all of
claiming
those things.
yeah, you're claiming that it's causally disposed, that it's that it's been unintentionally revealed to you through causal tendencies.
That's
And
correct. Yeah.
yeah, and so this ultimate, it has not intentionally revealed itself to you. It's unintentional for you
Yeah.
to know the things that you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Well, what I'm wondering is, if it hasn't intended you to
Uh huh.
know what you know about it,
Uh huh.
how do you know that? How do you know? Like,
So
this is why
I think. Look,
this is why
I think. Look.
your worldview is so confusing, because you're saying that
It's not confusing. It's like straightforward. You repeated my worldview, I think, 5 times, but then you gave an inference that is invalid, right? So if you look, let's just work with the basics, right? You have a universal structure. It is not personal. It doesn't have intentional states, right? It has a causal tendency, causal disposition to have relationality and
well,
particulars.
wouldn't
Those
personal,
relationality
let me clarify
particulars.
something really quick, Rodi.
Go ahead. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
if it's impersonal,
Yeah.
all right, wouldn't how is it that a personal being like yourself can be acquainted with uh, an an
An
an
impersonal thing.
impersonal ultimate?
What?
Like,
How is that? Is
how
there
is
a
it that
problem
you
with that?
how is it that you could how is it
Well,
that you could know with any certainty that this impersonal ultimate is the case,
yeah. So there are
if
two
it
things.
hasn't intentionally, and personally communicated those facts to you? Because it seems like
So is this question from the motivation that it cannot be the case, or do you see any problems with it being causally disposed rather than
no,
intentionally
no,
caused?
I'm trying to
If you don't,
understand
mhm.
your honest, and this is, I think, where we're running into a wall, is where I don't think you're being honest. But but if you are being honest, I just want to know
I am
how.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know how it is that an impersonal ultimate
Hmm.
has infallibly revealed itself to you through causal tendencies.
I'm not sure. What is the look? I answered all of those questions. Now I'm just asking
You,
the motivation behind the question. This is why I'm asking for the motivation, because it seems to me like you're asking me in circles the same things that I already answered, I think, 5 or 6 times. So
well,
what is the motivation behind behind the
the
questions?
motivation is that your worldview seems very confusing, and I'm not understanding. I'm
It's not
not making
okay.
the
So
connection between how it is that an impersonal ultimate can
Hey, JT,
causally, yeah.
so
can we just address
mhm.
Albedo in the chat really quick? Coming in here
Uh,
trying to say
Well,
that Protestantism is a heresy in your room.
okay.
well, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'll just like mute myself. But JT, just before all of that, I first of all, I think I answered all of your questions sufficiently, and not only that, I gave you also why they are sufficient, right? In virtue of the first word in the question being how or why or like what is, right? And I gave you the procedural justification, the explanation, and also the justification itself, right? The procedural, the justificatory, and the explanatory, right? And if you want to understand my worldview, which I already laid out, I can lay out my worldview very, very, very slowly, and you'll just stop me where you think there is a problem, right? And this is what I suggested you to do. So just because I'm having those conversations because I want for my worldview to be resilient against criticism. So I'm appreciating all of your questions, right?
Yeah.
But it seems to me, yeah, I do appreciate all of those questions, right? I'm not denying that. And I actually wanted to start with some agreements other than disagreements because it seems to me like the interrogation doesn't lead us anywhere, right? And I already explained. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's fine, and I appreciate that. And yeah, I am curious. What it is. Like
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm steel manning you when I have conversations with you about your worldview. I don't want to get your
Yeah,
proposed
you
worldview
still
wrong.
mostly you stilled men correctly. I'm not questioning your stillman. I'm questioning your inferences, which I didn't see any reason to take them as inferential, right? In virtue, so just as an example, when you said if it is not intended to do so, how do you know? As if, well, first of all, I answered that, but as if there is some type of a problem with that, which I didn't see any type of a problem that you laid out, right? So, and this
Yeah.
is why I'm asking the inferences.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how this monad, how this impersonal monad, is able to communicate, whether intentionally or unintentionally, any any
If it is impersonal, it cannot be intentional, right? For intentionality, you'll need to have personhood, right?
yeah. So okay,
Cool.
so how it could communicate anything to you unintentionally with certainty, giving you epistemic certainty to what it is that it has revealed about itself
But
or about
yeah,
yourself.
but the causal, yeah. So the procedural. So I'll just like
Well, yeah, you can say,
answer
look,
you
look,
again.
Rodi,
Hmm.
before you do,
Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Before
I
I
think
do, yeah.
I think I understand that you know these things in light of them being
Oh, I think you
causally.
also know those things.
Yeah. Okay. So
You,
so
mhm.
you're saying your claim is that you know these things based on the causal tendency of this
Yeah,
impersonal
that's
ultimate.
correct. That's correct.
So that's the procedure and how you know these things, right? That's your
Well, that's the
justification.
procedure. Yeah, the explanation to the procedure is that it has relationality between itself and all the particulars. So I'm saying that you also knows about those things, and I will also tell you why you know those things if you want me to. If you don't want me to, that's also fine. And the justifications for that, it's in virtue of its transcendental necessity, right? Transcendental necessity just means
Yeah.
that one, yeah, you know what transcendental necessity means? You said it before, and I will
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to make sure. Okay, cool. So,
Yeah.
do you want to? Would you like to explain? I can also explain what the transcendental necessity if you don't want to do it yourself.
Yeah, you can go ahead and explain
Yeah.
your
So
definition of
transcendental.
transcendental.
Yeah. So transcendental necessity is an entity, right, or an item that is necessary for the possibility of intelligibility and features, general features of experiences. Right? That's what that's what the transcendental necessity in the literature usually broadly means, right? And I'm saying that intelligibility is intelligibility necessarily requires you to have relationality to the things that you are, let's say, inquiring about or having some type of a knowledge about, right? So even if you have some type of innate knowledge, there is a cause to why you have those types of things in virtue of relationality. And it boils down to the ultimate, right? Because there is this type of transitive relation between the ultimate and all other particulars, right? And all of those things, by the way, are not controversial even by your side, because you do believe all the things that I said, you just disagree with the properties of the ultimate, right? And I have some arguments to believe why this ultimate cannot be personal, but you didn't want me to lay them out.
So okay, well, you said a lot of stuff just now.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and I was going to respond to one of the things that you said. So you
Go ahead.
so you said that well, just going based off your worldview, you have said that this impersonal ultimate has that you know of this impersonal ultimate by means of causal tendencies, and that everyone, or at least myself, and you both know this to be the case through causal tendencies, and that so because of this being the case, you know this impersonal ultimate, and still, what I'm trying to understand is, forgive me, Rodi, but it just seems like to me that you are just making this up to
Why? How?
so where is
So the
this
scientific
found?
consensus, for example. Mhm.
Where
So
is this
yeah, so the
found?
scientific consensus is that there is a theory of everything, right? And people and the scientists try to say what, or construct a theory of what is the theory of everything. So my view is not that novel as you want it to be, right? Now, it seems like you're confused, and I'm not entirely sure why you are confused, because I laid out it more than one time. And if you want to stop me, just stop me, and we'll discuss about what you're confused about in my worldview, right? I have no problem with you like stopping me and just telling me, can you define that, or can you explain that, or stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't want you to be confused about my worldview, and it seems to me like you are for some reason.
yeah.
I don't think it's hard
The
to comprehend.
confusion.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
the confusion is arising from the this it's arising from you knowing. So you're saying that you know this impersonal ultimate to be the case, and
Okay. Yeah.
and that is in direct conflict with what I know to be the case. But you're saying that I know, right? So we're both coming from different worldview perspectives. My worldview is that I know the Christian God to be the
Mm-hmm.
ontological ultimate,
Yeah.
and
So. Mhm.
that he has revealed himself to all mankind through both creation, intentionally, both through creation and through divine revelation. Okay, so
Yeah.
he has intended that we know him. Okay, and that he has
I know.
he has a purpose, and he has a reason for why he does what he does, and why anything that happens and takes place in all of creation, there's a reason and a meaning to it, a purpose behind it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so the conflict that you're bringing up is that from your worldview, you have this impersonal ultimate, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that has revealed itself to you unintentionally through causal tendencies. Okay,
That's correct. Yeah.
and so how is it that we can both be so I mean, obviously there only one of these worldviews can be true, and you're meaning to tell me that this ultimate.
Oh, I can tell you why, right? So in this dialectic, we both agree. Well, you don't want to say the word agreement for some reason.
But I actually have no problem with that, so I'll say that. We both agree that there is an ultimate that all things arrive and depend upon, and we have knowledge by the transitivity, right, of the relationality to this ultimate, right? Now, the question here is whether or not it is intentional, right? If it is intentional, you might call it God, and I have no problem with that. If it is not intentional, then it is whatever I'm saying without the intentionality part, right? By the causal tendency. Now, I have an argument to say why it cannot be intentional. Do you have an argument to say why it is intentional? Or do you want me to first to lay out why it is not intentional, and then you give me the rebuttal to my argument?
Well, what
I think that's a fair question, by the way.
I think where I'm confused is how it is that you can predicate on any of this if there is no intention, there's no ethic behind behind the universe. If there is no intentionality behind the universe. If everything just is what it is, then from your, by your own lights, everything that you say and think is just a causal, it's causally necessary with no intentionality, with no
No, it's not causally
actual
necessary.
purpose.
No, I didn't say any. Yeah, I didn't say anything about causal necessity, and I don't think it is.
Well, when you invoke something, though, Rodi, when you invoke something, you're
Yeah.
saying that this is the case, that that it is true. Your worldview is true, my worldview is false. But where do you get the ethic from a monad that is
Wait.
impersonal?
Now are we going to ethics?
Well, I
I
mean,
have
if
no problem, but that's like a different conversation right now. I have no problem with talking to you about ethics, but
well, okay,
just like okay,
okay, yeah. So if you,
I thought we're talking about ontology and epistemology, not about ethics.
well, yeah.
They are
So
connected. They are connected about from my worldview, but that's not the dialectic that we have.
oh, okay, all right, yeah. Well, that's where I was getting confused, because it sounds like your whole reason for being in here and arguing your worldview is that there is some virtue behind your worldview.
Oh, there is
And
a virtue.
okay, and so what I'm curious about is why it is that you are able to predicate on anything given your proposed worldview thus far.
So, when you're saying predication, what do you mean by that?
Like
Because
speak
I can I
authoritatively.
can give you
Speak authoritatively, as if
speak
it.
authoritatively.
Yeah,
So
like.
that's not the usual term of predication, but I have no problem with using that if you want me to.
Uh, okay, well, let's just say speak authoritatively. So I'm confused in why you are able to speak authoritatively from this monad who is impersonal, who has revealed itself to you through causal intentions, or causal tendencies rather.
Tendency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. And
that's fine.
so and so what I'm still confused about is why you are able to propose this worldview with any authority, and why it
But I
should.
gave you I answered you so many times for this or like other questions that are related to this, right? I gave you the procedural, I gave you the explanatory, and I
Yeah.
gave you the justificatory answers to all of those questions. And I think you can use my previous answers to this to answer this question as well. But my question is, and I don't think you answered to that. Would you like me to give an argument why this ultimate just cannot be personal?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, cool. So first of all, I don't think this ultimate can be agental because the ultimate have to be simple, but agency requires you to have deliberations that are coming from desires and beliefs, right? And desires, beliefs, intentions, deliberations, all of those are interlinked, right? So in this case, agency have an inter-relata, right? In objects of relata. If it has objects of relata, that means that it's constituted by other things. And if it is constituted by other things, it cannot be ultimate, right? And if it cannot be ultimate, then God is just contradictory because God is defined to be an agent and an ultimate, while agency implies that it is not an ultimate. So that's why it has to be dispositional rather than intentional, or agental in this case.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not even sure exactly what you just said, to be honest.
Okay, would you like me to
So,
repeat that and you'll stop me
well,
when you
yeah,
think you disagree?
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and repeat it.
Yeah, God is defined. So, sorry, two properties, necessary properties of God, that it is ultimate and it is also agental. It is an agental entity, right? It has agency,
Okay.
right? Those are at least two necessary properties, if there are not more, right? Like in your case, it is also triune. It's a human incarnation born in Bethlehem and stuff like that. But I'm not even talking about those properties because if I can show you contradiction with just two of those properties, I don't need to lay out more. So the contradiction here is that if it is ultimate, then it is simple. Simple just means it doesn't have any parts or counterparts or constitutive parts, right? That's what a simple means. If it is ultimate, then it is simple, right? The second premise is that if it is agent, then it cannot be simple, right? And by the law of transitivity, if it is not an agent, if it is an agent, then it cannot be simple, and if it cannot be simple, then it cannot be ultimate, right? So that's the contradiction. Now,
Yeah.
why, if it is an agent, it cannot be simple? Because agency implies, right, an interrelata. What does it mean to have an interrelata? That means that you'll have an internal relations, right? Such as, for example, beliefs, desires, intentions, and deliberations. All of those things are relating to its own, right, deliberations. If that is the case, right, then God have inner relata, and if it has interrelata, it cannot be simple, right?
Okay. So I think the problem would be with premise one and the necessity for simple being defined as like, what, like not having more than two attributes. Is that what you're referring to as
No,
simple?
no, no. No. It's not about the attributes, right? It's not about the attributes. It's about it cannot have counterparts or constitutive parts, because the whole point of
Counterparts.
constitution, yeah, or constitutive parts. Constitutive parts, by the definition,
Yeah.
is that they are constituting whatever
So
they are
so
in relation
God
to.
so God by definition in the Christian worldview is that God doesn't have parts. There are no there
Yeah.
are no parts. God is a unified one. He is an
Hmm.
ontological one. Okay, and he he is the diversity within God is a threefold personhood: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so, within his one exhaustive and eternal, you know, self-contained being, he has three persons that are all that are all in relationship with one another. Now, he
Hmm.
is simple in the sense that is that he is unified and that he has a particular set of base attributes. But so when I, you know, the contention that I would have would be with the first premise, meaning that simple would necessarily refer to, you know, the problem that I would have would be that this notion that that the Christian God has parts or has multiple parts. I think that would be a straw man of the Christian God.
Yeah, I didn't say that's your position. I'm
Oh,
saying this
okay,
is what
okay.
your position. I said this is what your position entail unknowingly to you.
Oh,
So
okay, but you said that agency would require that. You said that agency would require that there are multiple parts.
yeah, that's correct. And
Yeah.
but
So
do you remember my explanation to why it is the case?
the you said something about no. So no. Go ahead and repeat it because I'm
Yeah, no problem. So no problem.
so
For agency,
agency insists that there's parts
yeah,
to a being.
but
Okay.
I also gave you like a reason to why that is the
Yeah,
case.
yeah. Go ahead and
Because
repeat the reason.
agency is defined by the capacity, right, of a subject to deliberate, right? That means that it is having the capacity to act accordingly to its own intentions, right? Now, intentions are derivable from beliefs and desires, right? And beliefs and desires form the deliberation, and eventually the intention means, right, that in virtue of those things, it has interrelatas, right? Relata are the objects of relation. Just as an example, my dog is white, my car is white. They have They have the relation of both of them being white, and the relata of the whiteness is my dog and my car. That's the relata, the objects of relation. But if there are objects of relations that are internal to the agent, right, then they are constituted, right? The agent, they are constituting, the agent. And if they are constituting the agent, because they are internal to the agent, then it cannot be simple. JK said to me before, one second, that, where is JK said it? JK2.
Yeah, he's here.
He said that doesn't follow that an ultimate is necessarily simple. Well, that necessarily implies that, because if it is not simple, that it is constituted by parts, and the constitutions are more fundamental than the objects that constituting them, that are constituted, constituting it. So it has to be simple. That's what JK said before, not you.
Okay.
Wait, what's the argument that an ultimate needs to be simple?
Yeah, so the argument, I already explained that right now. Would you like me to repeat that?
Yeah, go on then. What is it in premise for?
Yeah, so premises is constitution are more, objects of constitution are fundamental than the objects that are constituted, right?
Wait, sorry?
Because the objects of constitution, right, are more fundamental than the objects that are constituting. So just as an example, hydrogen and oxygen are constituting the water molecule, and the constitution from the water molecule is that it is less fundamental than hydrogen and oxygen, just as an example. Or the parts of the computer are more fundamental than the computer, because the parts can be independent of the computer, but the computer cannot be independent from the parts. So the constitution, right, is more fundamental, ontologically speaking, than the objects that is constituted.
Why would that apply to God?
I gave you the reason, because
No,
if it
God's
has interrelata, right, then the relations that are within God are the things that constitute God as being an agent.
I think it sounds like a category error or something. It seems
In
malformed.
virtue of what? Wait, in virtue of what it is a category error?
Well, when we conceive a God, God's sui generis, and that just doesn't fit my conception.
It is irrelevant whether it's sui generis or not.
No, it's unique. Like, I don't know what the analogy you're
Even
giving
if it is, yeah.
analogy.
No, I didn't give you
You're
an
not
analogy.
understanding what he meant. It's going
I
right
didn't
over
give
your
you
head.
an analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't give you an analogy.
With
No, you
water.
have to listen to me.
Darth,
You know what sui
really want
generis
to talk to
means?
JK.
Then
I
good.
know.
Then you can get that. Then you can get the hell out. Okay. You know what sui generis means?
Look, coward. I can talk to you if you want to.
Do you know what sui generis means?
I already told you yes multiple times.
Do you know what sui generis
right now,
means?
I told you yes
Do you
for the
know
third time, Darth.
what does it mean?
What does that mean? That means it is unique.
That's right. He's the only one of its kind. Now, if you're going to be reasoning about, if you're going to be reasoning about anything, okay, either what you are reasoning will have its starting point, origin, and it will conform either to the mind of God or not. So is what you are telling me,
dispute.
Okay, good. Now, is what you are telling me, does it not originate in the mind of God?
Yeah, it does not originate in the mind of God.
Okay.
Why are you
cutting
into this conversation? Well, when talking to JT and JK, not with you. Why are you over talking me right now?
Listen to me, Rodi. If you think you're going to do your usual shtick and it's going to end well,
using
it
your
won't.
usual shtick.
Listen to me carefully. No, I'm not. I'm trying to talk with you like an adult. Listen.
Yeah,
just like when a police officer listen carefully. Just like when a police officer listen carefully. Don't overspeak me. Just like when a police officer tells a suspect, take your hands out of your pockets, okay? Right? Or you're going to get shot. right? If you misbehave, you're going to get kicked.
Why are you wasting our time?
Now, because every time I've dealt with you, not only on Clubhouse, but on Discord, you end up in a barrage of machine gun words with me where you just end up bickering. Okay? Now, since what you are
don't
saying,
understand my answers,
listen carefully. Listen. Maybe one day, maybe it's today, you're going to grow up and stop bickering like you usually do, and we can have an adult interaction. Now,
what you're doing right now is bickering.
Since what you are saying does not originate in the mind of God, nor does it require that it be commensurate with the mind of God, what you are reasoning, what you are predicating, what is its ultimate starting point?
Yeah, so I answered this question before, I think 15 times with you, which was the ultimate structure. Do you don't remember?
That is non-informative to me. Now, this ultimate that you refer to, by what means can you know about it?
In virtue of the causal disposition for the universal structure.
Okay, listen to me.
About it.
Listen to me. Okay, you're going. I'm begging and pleading with you. You're going to have to speak in non-gobbledygook to me. Okay, instead of throwing out non-normal nomenclature. Okay, if you think you're going to bamboozle me or get away with the previous way you've spoken with me, it's not going to work. You're going to have to speak in non-gobbledygook. Now, by what means can you know what is ultimate and absolute and which is the concrete universal? How do you know about it?
Yeah, the procedure by which I know about it is that it is causal tendency of the universal structure. Right,
okay, that's gobbledygook.
With the don't overtalk me, Darth. You asked me not to overtalk
interrupting you. You are repeating the same thing you said. I'm going to kick you if you don't stop.
Look, English is your first language. What don't you understand about what I'm saying?
Listen to me.
English is my fourth language.
Never listen to me. Listen to me.
So
what
if
you are
think
saying,
I'm
warning you. I don't want to kick you. I
yes,
really
you do.
don't
because you
want
don't want
kick you.
Because you are in overtalking
You're
me.
doing it,
and you don't want me to overtalk you.
Okay, listen. I don't want to kick you. Okay.
Yeah,
but I
don't
will.
want you to overtalk me.
You are
and I don't want you to overtalk
You are
me.
not speaking in a manner which is informative and clear to me. It's not informative.
Only to you, yeah. Which is very shame because
when
English is your first
people
language.
tell me, okay, you're now at strike 2. If you get a strike 3 without further warning, I'm going to kick you. If you overtalk
do you
me
think I care
and
about
bicker
that?
with me,
do you think
if you
are
bicker
right
with
now?
me, okay, goodbye.
I'm not.
All right. Okay.
Bye bye, coward.
All right.
Bye,
okay.
coward. Bye.
All right. See, this is what he does. Okay. He just throws out a barrage of words which are not informative. He makes stuff up which he couldn't possibly know.